What is going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Philly Sports Pulse Live on 302 Birds. Adam, uh, well, we're having some technical. Leave and come back. Leave and come back.
No, I can't hear you.
Uh, I,
Can you hear
I'm
me?
definitely. Yeah, there you go. Yes, I can.
You can hear. I can't hear you still
Yeah.
though.
Hang on. We'll hit you. Leave. Hang on.
Dalton can hear him. Okay.
Yeah. Leave and he's gonna leave and come back. We'll figure out the technical difficulties on Adam's end. Not really sure what's going on, but the Eagles, they hire SeanMannion. The offensive coordinator search is finally over, as the Eagles have brought in SeanMannion, the quarterback coach. We good?
Yep, we're good.
All right, we're good. The Eagles bring in the quarterback coach from the Green Bay Packers, 33-year-old SeanMannion. And honestly, my first impressions, I am honestly not that thrilled, to be completely honest with you. The approach that I was told by the Ian Rappaports, the Adam Schefters of the world, is that the Eagles wanted a proven veteran type of offensive mind. And you don't have that in SeanMannion. The idea of him being a first year play caller, that scares me. That terrifies me. And the idea if he stinks and then that play calling going over to Nick Sirianni also completely terrifies me. So, with the news that we have hired SeanMannion, and with Adam Schefter a couple of days ago dropping a little hint on 97.5 that there could be potential other big news in the Eagles world, Adam, where do we stand right now with the Eagles?
Yeah, I mean, to me, Jesse, I think more optimistic than I did an hour ago, if I'm going to be honest. I am cautiously optimistic on the SeanMannion hire. I think this was one of the better choices across who was still available in the current circle. And I completely understand your concerns, right? Because the lack of experience as a play caller is certainly something that the Eagles, we're looking to potentially highlight some kind of, proven name in their search. And we've heard all the reports, right? Mike McDaniel, Brian Dable, they were at the top of everything and they weren't able to get them. But when you look at this kind of who was left and who was available and, the systems and the success they come from, there may not be anybody with more success in better perceived systems around the NFL than SeanMannion. This is a guy who comes from the McVay and Shanahan tree where, they have that Los Angeles Rams offense that, Sean McVay, and he helps them turn into what they did over the middle of the field and generate, the explosives that they did in that 2017 season where they really took the lead by storm as an inside running team. Then he goes over to LaFleur in Green Bay and was really successful as a play caller this year. Was really great in his ability to help this Jordan Love offense get the ball out quickly over the middle of the field and be a great design run game. So I think, more faith in SeanMannion than, say, the consensus just because of where they come from. I think he comes from a tree with a very great schematic offenses. And I also think this move provides the Eagles with a little bit of stability, right? Because they haven't had an offensive coordinator over these past couple of cycles, these past couple of years that's signed to a multi-year deal. SeanMannion is. So there's a chance of some form of continuity within this offense over the next couple of years, which I think is something that should be emphasized. So I am optimistic here. There is the risk, like we said, of the play calling. And I think that's something I'm willing to take given how successful he and the Green Bay Packers offense have been over the last couple of years. So I like this move. I think it was the best choice available. And as far as the 97.5 stuff, I mean, it's hard to really speculate there. I think, what we're going to have to talk about is the Jeff Stoutland report. And I think that is a big deal. But again, it's hard to speculate there, I think. And I think just judging in this window, I like this choice for offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I can see why, that I can see why people are, optimistic with him. Jordan Love, he had a good 2024. I will give him that. So he knows how to work with quarterbacks, but my biggest thing is, why did they not bring in Cliff Kingsbury? It feels like they brushed him under the rug, essentially. And to me, he was honestly my top choice all along. Any idea why they didn't really give him a look?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's difficult to determine, Jesse, what goes on in these interviews, what goes on in these processes, right? And there's been a lot of Eagles Nation trying to decipher, they interviewed him 2 times, and they interviewed him once virtually, and what is really the process behind all of this? And the truth is, we really don't know. My thought on Cliff Kingsbury has really consistently been that, the first year is fantastic because of his ability to create quick game for his quarterbacks, make things easier for his quarterbacks. And then as defenses kind of catch on in that second year, that's been the struggle, right? You saw it in Arizona, you saw it in Washington. So there becomes a ceiling on the offense. I think there might have been a view in Philadelphia, both that, they wanted to have an offense that doesn't necessarily have that ceiling. And I think that's something Mannion could potentially bring you, and new ideas in the building. Kingsbury's offense does have a lot of similarities to what Philadelphia currently runs in its simplicity. And you're looking at a guy who probably, if he did a good enough job, like I said, you're going right back into that cycle. So, I mean, having the multi-year deal for SeanMannion, even if he is really successful in this offense this year, it's highly doubtful that he's going to run for a head coaching job, because he's only been calling in an NFL offense in a job for 2 years. So I think that gives you an advantage. And again, we don't know what goes on in these meetings. So, yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. Alrighty, folks. This is the moment this is why you guys clicked on the thumbnail. Transitioning a little bit from Eagles talk, we've got ourselves a special guest tonight, ladies and gentlemen, from Instagram, from the Philly sports world, with over 12,000 followers on Instagram. Probably one of the best Philadelphia sports Instagram accounts on the internet. Ladies and gentlemen, Frosty from Philly.
What's going on, guys? I appreciate the good words, man. I appreciate the nice words. It means a lot.
Yeah, no problem.
Happy to have you, man.
Yeah, good to have you. So we've got a lot to go over with you tonight. I think first off, I mean, we'll hit your bread and butter Flyers later on the show, but I think we got to talk about the Sixers first. It's a Sixers with Frosty segment, not as flashy as the Flyers with Frosty, but we gotta hit that first because the trade deadline, it's coming up soon. Sixers right now, they're up after one 28-25 against the Sacramento Kings. Embiid has 10 points, Maxey has 9, and VJ Edgecombe has 3. But the whole thing with VJ Edgecombe, I've got some concerns, because the NBA world has been throwing out the idea that the Sixers trade for Giannis, which is, to me, a good idea. I'm not opposed to that. But throwing in VJ Edgecombe there, to me, the games where Embiid isn't dying from his knee, which, it's it's been less of an occurrence as of late. But there have been some games where Joel's needed to rest. Those games where he's been out, VJ Edgecombe and Tyrese Maxey have been those guys. And it's been nice to see your best player in Tyrese Maxey having a guy that can kind of back him up. But it's sort of like it's sort of like Daryl Morey, he made up for his sins when Joel Embiid had nobody to go off of because James Harden was an absolute fossil. But my point being, I don't know why you would trade VJ Edgecombe. That feels like an idiotic move to me. What say you guys?
I agree. I think that VJ, he's 19 years old, and he's become a core piece of this team right away. I think it's rare that you see a guy, still a teenager come into the NBA and for lack of a better term, be able to dominate at times on both sides of the ball. He can play elite defense, and he can play, you can see games he can put up 20 to 30 points. He's clutch, when kind of like you said, those guys aren't performing down the stretch. VJ Edgecombe can find that moment, and he's not afraid of the moment. He had that moment early in the year. I forget who they're playing, but he had that game winner in overtime. Big plays like that he can do. But I think the bigger thing, too, is I like to harp on the age because there's so much room for growth. And I think a lot of fans with this, the notion of the process, they want to see this team win now. They want to see him win soon because, Joel Embiid's getting older and he's only going to get more injured. Paul George is old. So that window with these couple guys is small. However, I don't believe in selling your entire future potentially in that win now mode because ultimately you go grab Giannis. You don't know what that looks like entirely. It could be a disaster for all you know because maybe him and Embiid and George don't click. Something like that. And now you have Giannis who, certainly 30 plus, that really just closes your window even more. I think you hold on to an asset like VJ Edgecombe. And while the guy I'm about to mention, I'm a big fan of as well. If you're going to have to move someone, unfortunately, it's going to have to be Jared McCain.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in complete agreement there. I think, the biggest thing that goes kind of lost in all of this a lot of times is how hopeless it felt from a Philadelphia 76ers perspective just 3 months ago. And this team has really reestablished themselves through their youth. You're seeing it right now. It's Maxey, it's Edgecombe. It's one of the most exciting backcourts in the future in the entire league. And I think, we have moved past a point in which the priority is this Embiid, Paul George kind of outlook and the money that's attached to it. It's fantastic that Joel Embiid has been played fantastically. It's fantastic that Paul George has been as good as late as he has been. He had a spectacular night last Tuesday night, and I think what he's brought on both ends of the floor has been really helpful to this team. But I think at the end of the day, the future is the priority. And I mean, if you struck a good enough deal to probably shed salary, that would probably be the greater priority for this Philadelphia 76ers team at the moment as they continue to work towards the future with those two young stars. So I think that's where they're going to continue to prioritize. You notice the big thing in that report is that they have not themselves reached out and proposed any part of that deal. And I think there is a good reason for that. So Maxey and Edgecombe, VJ Max, staying in Philadelphia in 2026.
I'll tell you what, there's a VJ Max hat out there. I wouldn't be surprised if you have that hat. that hat, based on the hat stories that you told me about. But man, that hat, the memes, the hat, wow, absolute chef's kiss. We got to talk about the game last night and the game prior because they go hand in hand.
Do we have to talk about the game prior? I mean, I try to forget it.
Yeah, we can skip that one.
What? Seriously, what the hell was that? Against the Hornets? Come on.
We're in a modern NBA, and I talked about this in my podcast too, where on any given night, with shot variance, with players resting, with anything, any team can beat any team, and it makes for one of the most exciting NBAs in a long time, and it also makes for one of the most mind-numbing NBAs in a long time. And I think Monday is simply that. So, yeah.
See, I agree, but I don't know if that's a good enough excuse for, a 37-point loss to a Hornet Charlotte's team that, as far as I understand it, is the worst team, one of the worst teams in the NBA. As far as I remember, and I saw the score once I got done work, and I didn't even bother turning it on because it was an earlier game, and I was like, I'm not going to waste my time watching this. But as far as I know, only Embiid's sat. If Embiid's the only one sitting, and you still have guys like Maxey, Paul George too.
Yeah.
But even if it's just those two guys, I like to think that Maxey, Oubre, Grimes, Edgecombe, all those guys, even Drummond backing up, at center and at Dembona, those guys should be able to step up and take care of a game that, frankly, you should have. I think there's certain games on the schedule where you look at them and you're like, this needs to be a win. Doesn't matter who we're short or what, needs to be a win. They didn't do it, so that's a bit disappointing. But, not to steal your segue, but the good things happened afterwards.
Absolutely. No, that was beautiful. That's a beautiful segue. The Sixers, after that, they turned things around in, a huge way. Sixers beat the Bucks, who again didn't have Giannis, who's out 4 to 6 weeks due to I think a calf injury. But my God, 3 points were flying in this one. 52% from 3-point land. Absolutely ridiculous. Like you guys mentioned kind of in the pre-show, they actually looked competent in that third quarter. What world are we living in?
Yeah, I mean, it was a really great win against, probably the worst team in the NBA at the moment. But yeah, it's fantastic to see them kind of coalesce when they're all on the floor together. I think that's been the biggest thing, whether they're playing that game or I don't think we were on here to talk about the Houston Rockets win earlier last week or the New York Knicks game, in which they had their ups and downs, but certainly within the fourth quarter of that game when all 5 starters were playing looked like a really, a tough unit to handle. And at the end of the day, that is the hope for this squad, right? Is once you get to postseason time, you have just a team that when they're able to play as themselves offensively, which is this fast pace and space style that Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe are at the forefront of, and Joel Embiid is healthy enough to be able to get to the free throw line and convert in the way that he has and draw the amount of physicality that he does, that they can be one of the best offenses and just run teams off the floor. That is essentially the goal. Now, you see the issues with that on nights like this weekend when they're faced with teams that have a little more physicality on the boards, right? Are able to match players like Joel Embiid a little better defensively with what they can bring as far as rim protection and Joel's struggles with getting his feet off the floor at times. But at the end of the day, I think this is a squad that, can continue to just hang with pretty much anybody in the Eastern Conference because of what they have 1 through 5. And I mean, 6 through 10 as well. We're seeing it tonight. I mean, this bench unit right now is playing strong. Against, granted, the Sacramento Kings, but held strong through the second quarter. We saw a couple nice baskets from Dominic Barlow, who's a two-way guy who's going to stay on this roster and continue to develop and grow. Saw some nice minutes from Jared McCain, hoping to have those extended beyond, what they've
raises his trade value a little bit.
Yeah.
Just
So it's an exciting time in Philadelphia overall, I would say.
Well, I think that I haven't been the biggest Sixers guy in a long time. I think the last season I got really, really involved watching the Sixers was 2019, and I nearly cried at that quadruple doink. It was so bad. And after that, I was just like, all. And I was just like, I can't do this. Like, this team rips my heart out, left and right. I can't get that. I can't get it. Every time I try, I get disappointed. And I think the biggest thing is after last season, it was such a downer. I think this season I came in with different expectations, but I think the biggest part is they're fun this year. Win or lose, they're still fun to watch, which I enjoy game to game. I love watching Edgecombe. I love watching Maxey, the way he plays, even though he's been struggling a little bit lately. And, while there are some things to figure out, I like seeing Joel Embiid back to somewhat degree of his MVP form. And it's fun for me. It gets me more into it. And as someone who, out of the 4 major sports teams in this city, I follow them the least. They make me want to watch every single game. And that to me is a huge statement on their end.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. It's a good sort of segue into the Phillies season that is probably going to ultimately disappoint us in October. But that's not here what we're talking. That's not what we're here to talk about at all. One more little thing before we transitioned into some Flyers talk for a little bit, because there's a lot to go into. Just here we go. One little thing. Where do you think the Sixers kind of go in this trade deadline? Because I've heard a lot of different perspectives. I've heard the perspective that you go under the tax line, and you try and trade guys like Andre Drummond. Some people want them to sit pat, and some people look at the wide open Eastern Conference and they say, "Why not us? Why not go for it?" So, should the Sixers go for it? Should they stand pat, trade? What do you guys want them to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really depends what's available, right? And that has been the question over the last couple of trade deadlines in the NBA, because the reality is in this current NBA that most of the big names or the kind of big pieces that you look to swing a season or a team are just not getting dealt or given these kind of contracts in today's NBA. It's mostly coming down to, sign and trades and 3-team deals and all kinds of crazy stuff in the offseason, not necessarily in January or February now. So you look at the names available at this trade deadline, I'm seeing guys like, I think, Keon Ellis is one of the big names that's being floated out there. That's a guy who the Sixers certainly could go out and get, but giving up a first-round pick for Keon Ellis is not the most, that's not bringing the fan base in full cheer and awe. So there are a couple buyout guys who I think would be solid for this team. I really like Yusuf Nurkic and what he's brought in Utah. I think that's a guy who you could be, kind of watching out for. Interestingly enough, Caleb Martin, who is a former Philadelphia 76er, he's a guy who's had his ups and downs here, but he's a guy who could get bought out in Dallas. He could be kind of floating around here. There's a couple of names similar to that, but at the end of the day, I think it might be better just for this team to either stand pat or ship off a guy like Andre Drummond to get under the tax and the financial constraints that it could potentially put them under over the course of this summer. So wouldn't necessarily mind that, but I think he's played fine in his role as well, and I wouldn't mind him being here either. So I think there's a lot of things for them to weigh. There's a lot of 3 directions to go, but I think either way, what you're looking at is something incremental. We just got done talking about Giannis. It will not be Giannis.
No, and Frost, before you hit what you're gonna hit, I'm sorry, I have to address this comment. The Moose, I love you, buddy, but Jesus, if Daryl Morey trades Joel Embiid,
that will he's not talking about Joel Embiid. He's talking about Embiid. He's talking about somebody different. It's okay.
Is that like a arson judge? No. I'm sorry. If Daryl Morey trades Joel Embiid, that is
Embiid needs to go. He said it again. It's not Embiid. It's Embiid. We're okay.
That is great. Oh my God. No. Okay. Joel Embiid and Bib. I'm sorry. None of them are going.
They can have Embiid. Embiid's good though.
Oh my God. No. Embiid is the MVP. Embiid is the GOAT, man. Come on. No. I'm sorry. Either way, those two. There is no way. There's no way, no how. Listen, you are not trading that contract. You are not convincing teams that the injury history is worth it. It's A, not happening. B, we've actually seen promise from Joel this year. That doctor, he's done miracles on me, damn it. He's done miracles on me. You know? So you go into we've said this every year. Going into the playoffs, they've had a not healthy Joel Embiid. You have a healthy Joel Embiid going into the playoffs? That's disgusting. I'm going crazy here, but Frost, what you got?
I was gonna say I got a couple thoughts. Is going back to the Drummond talk. I think the financial constraints could be concerning, and I think you have to be careful though, and not to put anything bad in the air, but obviously that with Joel Embiid you have the history of the injuries, and it's probably why they carry two centers. I think Adem Bona has actually played very, very well, especially on the defensive side of the floor. But I would be slightly concerned that if you get rid of someone like Andre Drummond, that can be your, either at times your backup center or your third string. God forbid something happens. Next thing you know, you're out of center. So that could be a concern. But I will double down in that Joel Embiid has been phenomenal lately. And I think it's the people that are out on him. I think it's a little over the top and dramatic. He's played very, very well, and I get the injury concern. And if he were to go down again, I could understand the justification of people being upset about that. But he's playing so well that there are currently Sixers fans going out and giving 5-star ratings to that doctor. Like they are actually bombing him with 5-star ratings. They are so excited about what this doctor has done to Joel Embiid's knees.
Listen, I'll put it this way. Y'all know me. I'm in a wheelchair. I would trust that doc to fix my legs. I'm sorry. If you can fix Joel Embiid's knees, go at him, baby. Go at him. Oh,
yeah.
Man.
I mean, before we go, I hate to not end on that incredible note, but I think there is a circumstance where, and I've heard this floated, and I think I have some belief in it. Yusuf Nurkic is bought out. You can sign Yusuf Nurkic on a minimum deal, get under the tax, and trade Andre Drummond. So it's
true. That makes sense.
The best possible scenario, but we'll find out if that's actually feasible, because I have a feeling the Sixers are not going to be the only, and VJ Edgecomb's hurt. So,
oh Jesus! Just now,
VJ Edgecombe is limping to the line.
No.
It's our fault, boys.
Wait, what's going on? We have some unfortunate breaking news. What's going on?
It did not look good. He was not walking well. So there you go, guys. Somebody
play the sad violin music. No. Oh man, that's horrible. That's awful. And you know what's more awful? The Philadelphia Flyers.
Good transition.
I'm sorry.
You're getting good at
it works. It is I'm already riled up. You said 3 words already, and I'm already riled up because he's 100% correct. He's 100% correct. But I'll let you finish.
No, I was gonna hit with you. What is going on with the Flyers? They started off so great, and now, like we both said, they're playing awful. What is going on?
It's it stemmed back from earlier in the month. They had a great game against the Anaheim Ducks, and everybody wanted that game because Cutter Gauthier comes home. You want to kick his butt, you want to boo, and that's great. And they did their job of that day. But that what I think, and not that I'm going to blame Anaheim, but that game led to a few injuries. Jamie Drysdale missed some time because he got hurt. What's his name? Bobby Brink got hurt, and just the injuries started to pile on. And the Flyers, while they were playing well, do not have the depth to account for those injuries because right now they don't have the funnel of the prospects. Denver Barkey has been a phenomenal call-up. He's played very well. He's like a spark plug in the lineup, and that's been great. But you pile on some losses, the team loses some confidence, you jumble up the lines, you lose chemistry, and they are just playing like a chicken with no head. Meaning they may be running as hard as they can, but they got no brain behind what they're doing. Now, I look at the games, and here's what I see. I see a team that's not coming ready to go. I see a team that is not prepared to go through the hardship. But as much as you could blame that on the players, I think it comes with the realization of that this roster was not one that anyone expected to play the way they did 41 games through the season. And yes, it was fun. It was great. But I think any fan that really, really follows them will know there was probably going to be a moment they come back down to earth. And myself, I'm someone that prayed that I hope not. I want to see the playoffs back in Philadelphia, but I think there's a difference between what you hope and what's realistic because, that's just it. And, the comment on the screen now is a great point. The team is very young. It's a very young team. And now this is kind of going to segue myself into what I think is the true issue. And my viewpoint is it doesn't start with the players for me. For me, it starts with the management and it starts with the coaching, because for years now, and I'm not sure how familiar you guys with the Flyers space right now, but and obviously Philadelphia media and Flyers Twitter, all that type of stuff is a mess. Normally it's a mess. Right now it is a forest fire. It is just, you don't want to go near it because it's truly just crazy. But I think because of this losing streak lately, a lot of fans are starting to point the finger, not at the players for the most part, but at the coach and at the management. And I'll let you guys decide. Where do you want me to start? You want me to start with the management, or you want me to start with the coaching? I don't want to ramble on too long by myself.
Let's start at the top.
Yeah, well, let's start with the management.
Yeah,
because to me, the immediate way that I go, the immediate way that I go with this, Christian Dvorak, they signed him to a 5-year, $25 million deal. In the NFL, NBA world, that per year, that sounds like a decent amount of change. But the way the contracts work in NHL, totally different thing. And so I've seen such split reactions on that thing. It's insane. Like Hunter Brody on 94 WIP, he's jumping off a cliff. You've got some other people in the Flyer space that are fine with it. Frost, when this broke, were you jumping off a cliff, or which way were you going?
I was considering it, but I wasn't going to go through with it. Here's my take on that contract, and the thing with the NHL right now is the NHL salary cap is going to rise. So a lot of contracts that you see now that may look concerning money-wise really aren't going to be that bad, because I think in a few years it's going to go up to anywhere between $5 and $6 million. And that's a lot of money in NHL terms. So the money for me with the Christian Dvorak deal isn't the problem. For me, it's the term. The term is where I do not understand it, because this team, to those that really follow it, they're not a team that's going to contend. You can maybe squeak into the playoffs. You're not winning a Stanley Cup with this roster right now. I don't care how hard you try. It's not happening. And the biggest plague of this team right now is they have no center depth. And Christian Dvorak has played very well this year. It's a career year, and I want to applaud him for that, because you can't deny that aspect of it. But when you look at the rest of his careers thus far, he's never had a season over, I think it's anywhere between 35 to 37 points. And in NHL terms, that's a third-line player, if that. That's not good. That's the guy you want to lock up for 5 years at almost 30 years old. A team that realistically won't be ready, God willing, for another 3 years when he's 33. What does a 33-year-old Christian Dvorak provide to this team? That becomes my question. People, if he can play the way he is right now, great. But I'm not one to sit here and say that I think he can sustain it on a year-to-year basis. If he can, great. We were proven wrong. It's not that big of a deal. But the track record to me doesn't say so. Beyond that, as Dvorak as a player, though, it's about the message it sends as a management team. This team, they've said for a year and a half now, officially, maybe 2 years, that we're in a rebuild. This isn't a move that screams rebuild, because you had a guy, Christian Dvorak, that you could trade at the deadline to a contender, get assets, get a young player, potentially, get a chance for more capital. And I think they argued that, there's not a lot of center depth on the market and free agency. That's why they wanted them. To me, it's an okay reason, not a great reason, but it's an okay reason. But ultimately, I think if you're really going to rebuild, you probably ship him out the deadline.
Does this sort of show that the front office doesn't have faith in guys like Jet Luchenko? guys that they brought on. What's your sort of take on that?
I think that it's not entirely fair to make that claim because I think there is truth in what they're saying, that the center market is very scarce right now, just in current NHL players. And I've seen that, the talk of, you want a guy like Jet Luchenko to theoretically be your third line center next season, see what Jack Nesbitt can become. And, I do see the concern there, right? Because I think that those two guys were both stretch picks when they got drafted. They haven't really wowed. Jet Luchenko hasn't wowed in his NHL experience so far, and from a minor or junior league standpoint, they really haven't blown people away the way that other prospects for other teams have. Now, from that standpoint, I think what people are saying, it's a reasonable conclusion, but I'm also not one to completely give up faith on these guys. They're young players, and sometimes it takes time. It's not always a linear path, and now it is true that you would like to see better things develop, and if they turned out to be busts, for lack of better terms, I wouldn't be entirely shocked. But there's a lot of time that can go into this. They need to develop those guys, and I think there is opportunity. They do have skill sets. So to say they have no faith in those guys, I disagree partially, but I do think it's not necessarily a baseless claim. But ultimately, Dvorak's one player. Jack Nesbitt and what's his name, Jet Luchenko are two. There's still time. I don't think Dvorak getting signed means that they're out on those guys who are still very young.
Yeah. Another guy that I feel like people are putting blame on him.
I know who you're talking about.
Matvei Michkov. I hate it. I do, because the whole idea. I mean, at least to me, in my very admittedly limited Flyers experience, is that when they brought in Tocchet, what was to let Matvei Michkov play a little bit more. The previous coach, he benched him a ton, and now he's struggling. So
sure,
what's going on with him?
So I'll start with the coach, because I personally was not a big fan of the Rick Tocchet hire. Now, do I think Rick Tocchet is a bad coach? No, I actually don't. I just don't think he's the right coach for a team in a very developmental stage. Kind of what someone said in the comments earlier. It's a young team, and what do young teams need? They need development. Rick Tocchet, in his entire coaching career, has not displayed that he is any good at developing young talent. He didn't do it for Clayton Keller in Arizona. He certainly didn't do it for Elias Pettersson in Vancouver. And now you see a similar thing with Matvei Michkov in Philadelphia. Now, luckily, as we're recording this, Matvei Michkov has been one of the best players on the team as of late. He's had a really strong stretch of 5 games. It's not necessarily getting rewarded on the score sheet every game, but he's being noticeable. And I do think Tocchet is giving him more opportunity as of right now, which I do think is good. But ultimately, I don't think Tocchet is the best guy to develop that talent, because he hasn't done it before. I also do think he's slightly overrated as a coach. In my opinion, when you look at the teams that he has coached, and you look at those rosters, they've performed just about how I think you could expect them to perform. So, I think the biggest argument, though, is people will say, well, who would you rather have hired? And that's fair, because there really wasn't a whole lot left on the coaching market. And based on resume alone, they did get the best guy. But best guy aside, I don't think he's, the best option. But moving on to Matvei Michkov, honestly, I don't think the criticism is all bad, because you're right. He hasn't played well overall. In the grand scheme of things, he hasn't. I do think that the criticism is a little nitpicky at times. But I think the bigger issue that a lot of fans have right now isn't necessarily the criticism itself. It's the frequency at which you hear the criticism, and the fact that the criticism is always about Matvei Michkov. Every single play the kid makes, whether it be if it's a mistake, it's highlighted on podcasts by the coach saying things in cryptically in interviews on Twitter. It's all over the place, and it's only him, and it's all the time. And people are just like, guys, like, other players on this team make mistakes. It's not just Matvei Michkov. I don't know how you expect him to develop and build confidence when you're constantly bashing. But on top of that, too, give him the praise that he deserves when he plays well, because you don't see that a whole lot either. And frankly, I don't think he plays as bad certain games as others do, I'm a little bit more optimistic because I see a lot of plays where, as a hockey player myself, I see the vision that he has and what he's trying to do. And I think some plays look like it's his fault, but it's because it's another player on the team isn't quite reading the play the same way. But ultimately, the biggest thing too is us as Philadelphia fans, we are known for keeping our players accountable. So that's not my issue when it comes to Matt Michkov. I think he deserves some of the criticism. The problem is, every other Flyers player needs to be held accountable too. Garnet Hathaway played 40 games with no points, 0 points, and has been out there for maybe 2 goals or 2 goals for. That is terrible. Why isn't he in the press box? Why isn't that being talked about? Sean Couturier, the captain of the team, is an absolute ghost out there more often than he's not. Why aren't we talking about that on the media side of things? So fans are starting to do it themselves, and that's what the commotion is right now. And especially with this losing streak that they've got going on as we're recording, down 2-0 to Boston, maybe going 3 straight without a win, the fans are getting much more vocal when it comes to all this stuff going on.
Yeah. One more thing, and then we'll kind of sort of wind things down. This whole thing with Vladar and Harrison. Once he went down, right? Harrison took over, and he's kind of stunk. Does the injury to Vladar, has that killed him that much, or is it a bigger problem than that?
Yeah, I mean, luckily, Vladar actually did come back yesterday night. He got his first start, but they still lost. But, I'll even backtrack a couple years. When Carter Hart got, yanked from the team for his trial stuff up in Canada back in the 23-24 season, the Flyers, with average goaltending, were on track to make the playoffs that season. Carter Hart leaves the team, Sam Emerson takes over, and they got, out of 32 teams, the 31st best goaltending in the league, which obviously is second to last, and they end up missing the playoffs. In 24-25 last season, they got historically bad goaltending all around. All 3 goaltenders under a .900 save percentage, which is terrible. And then you see that carry over this season with Sam Emerson, who is, unfortunately playing better as of late, but as a season whole, truly abysmal numbers. Last time I checked a few games ago, out of 61 goaltenders to play over 13 games in the NHL, he had the worst save percentage in the entire league. So, especially the team that was, getting injured on the back end, having that goaltending to steal you a save here and there, it could be huge. It could be game-changing, momentum-changing. And they were not only were they not getting those stops, they weren't getting stops they probably should have been getting. So it does hurt them a lot. Luckily, Vladar is back, but now the team's playing poorly. So it seems like it's a downfall of a lot going on right now.
Yeah. One more thing, and I'll open this to the both of you, and I'll open this up to the comments. Going into the new year, what are we, January 29th? So a little further into 2026 than I guess I was getting at. But going into the year, which of the Philadelphia sports teams, Eagles, Flyers, Sixers, Phils, gives you the most hope going into their, well, the Sixers are in the midst of their season, same with the Flyers. But which team gives you the most hope as of this recording?
At a championship or at just like happiness and relevance?
It's a great question.
Well, both. I'll hit you with both.
Okay.
What do you got?
No, go ahead.
No, Adam, I'm going to let you go first because I just did a lot of talking, but I wanted to sneak in real quick that right when we talk about the Flyers goaltenders, Sam Emerson got scored on, so that's great.
Yeah.
He stinks. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I think as far as happiness and relevancy, I would say the Phillies, right? Because that seems to be, I think, the strongest of the regular season teams potentially. There's a rotation that we know has proven to be really, really solid throughout the regular season. There's bats that have proven to be really great bats in the regular season, and I think they're going to be a really fun team. It just, come postseason time, we talked about it last week, the concerns are going to continue to be there. So I think from that standpoint, the best team would probably be them. I think from an overall, long-term, like long-term standpoint, and from like a championship standpoint, I still think it's the Philadelphia Eagles. I think, the amount of cap space that this team is going to continue to have over the next couple of years, and just, the amount of stars that still remain on both sides of the football for this football team, I think it's hard not to have faith in them over the next couple of years. So I would say the Philadelphia Eagles are there for me, which is exciting because that's the biggest team in this city. So, yeah.
Ooh, it's hard. It's definitely hard. For happiness-wise, it surely is not the Flyers or the Sixers. I can tell you that much. But I think I've got to change up my answer from Adams, because I think for happiness, it has to be the Eagles for me, because, and I have some nuance to it. With baseball, they're playing every night, and you ever just sit there on a Monday night and scream at your TV because they're losing to some, and they play tomorrow.
Often.
It's 162 games, and you're losing your mind on a Monday night, and for me, it's like it's every single night, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm losing my mind. With the Eagles, it's once a week.
It's true.
17 weeks, and it goes, hopefully longer, and it goes how it goes. And ultimately, luckily, I agree that they're just built better than the rest of the teams. And I think a big part too is I think they're ran better. I think the management of the Eagles is the most in tune with trying to win games in their league and improve their roster than any other Philadelphia team right now. So I think they provide me the most happiness more often than not. And I still also think they're the best chance at a championship. I'm not familiar with the new OC they hired, but if the trend stays, 2026 should be a fun year.
Yeah, I agree there. Alrighty, folks. I think that's gonna wrap things up for today's show. Want to thank Todd for showing up. Just one little thing I want to hit this before we end things. Because I didn't even consider him going into things. Andre Drummond, there's been a lot of trade talk with him. Where would you guys go with him?
I mean, I think it's probably like 2 second-round picks, just so you can free cap space. At the end of the day, that's probably the market for a backup center like that. And I think that's perfectly fine. Like, it's more of a money-saving thing than we're getting into the next cycle thing. But another name, actually, now that we're kind of getting here, that I think we didn't bring up, but I think should be brought up, a Quentin Grimes upgrade. And I don't know what that would potentially look like. I've seen Kuminga stuff floated around. That would surprise me, but it certainly is a thing. Do Milwaukee, if there is a Giannis trade that comes around, do they become sellers? Does a guy like an AJ Green or a Bobby Portis start floating around? Quentin Grimes is certainly a name to watch, given he's not looked as great over the last couple of games, and that's a place where they potentially could upgrade.
I agree. He stole my lines.
Oh man, that's great. All right, yeah, that's all I got tonight, folks. Want to thank y'all for watching this episode of Philly Sports Pulse on 302 Birds. Shout out TickPick, Bubba's Hot Chicken, and a bunch of your Newark, Delaware fan favorites. Adam,
go Newark,
go Newark.
go Blue Hens.
We definitely gotta, I definitely gotta hit that area again some point. But yeah, thanks to all our sponsors, and I want to thank Dalt / Frosty for coming on. My friend, this is your chance. Where can we find you?
Well, first off, thank you for having me. I had a blast talking up and letting me get some steam off my chest about these Flyers, man. But Frosty from Philly. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok. I do a lot of covering Philadelphia sports stuff, funny skits, different going to games. I try to get to as much as I can, and that's pretty much it. If you enjoy Philly sports, I'm your guy.
All right. Yeah. That sounds great to me. Everybody go follow Frosty from Philly. Met you at the Sixers Cavs game the other night. I wish that was a win. But
it's
the Sixers
heartbreaking.
interior defense was awful that game, and we couldn't hit that last minute shot. I swear I thought that was going in, but it's whatever. That's gonna wrap things up tonight. Flyers, they're still, I think, getting their butts kicked by the Bruins, and the Sixers, 3-1, and the Sixers, they are keeping it close with the Kings, which I don't know. I don't like that.
See how it goes.
Anyway,
Third quarter coming up.
Oh boy, that's gonna be great. Stay tuned potentially for the Sixers post game show with me, KJ, and Dennis. But other than that, folks, that's all we got. Appreciate y'all for watching. Go Sixers, go Flyers, go Philly.